talk about that budget because Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana is preparing to present it in Parliament on Wednesday with focus on managing public finances and debt. The International Monetary Fund recently urged to a formal fiscal rule to limit borrowing, curb rising debt and boost then economic confidence as a consequence, hopefully. Analysts say such a rule could stabilize debt and strengthen investor trust. The speech will be closely watched for its economic impact, especially on stability and long-term growth. Let's talk to independent economist Duma Gqubule, who joins us now for a little bit more on this conversation. Duma, good morning. Always good chatting to you. Should we really be limiting how much debt we have here? Could that debt not be used to actually further the country's own needs? I mean, we have infrastructure needs already at play. We have so many across so many parts of the country. Morning.
Morning, Arabida. How are you? Arabida, quickly, just the context. Over the past 17 years, we've had annual average GDP growth of 1.1%.
Yeah.
In per capita terms, GDP will be lower than it was. GDP per capita will be lower than it was in 2007. We're heading for 2 decades of declining average living standards. Unemployment over the same period has soared by 6.5 million people to 12.4. We have the second highest unemployment rate in the world. On the fiscal rule, why don't we target GDP growth and jobs? And this is the overriding problem we have in South Africa today. In November 2024, I met the finance minister at Luthuli House, and I asked him, do you support a fiscal rule? And he says, no, because we will breach it. And we are now in a period globally of unprecedented geopolitical uncertainty. The US is going to attack Iran any day. The dollar is collapsing. There's a threat of an AI market crash on Wall Street. And we are in an uncertain environment. And it makes no sense to introduce this hard fiscal rule. It's basically a legislating for austerity, which has failed over the past 14 years, and introducing a fiscal responsibility law.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. Let me just tell you how insane this thing is. In the US, they've got a debt ceiling.
Yep.
Since 1960, they've changed it 78 times. Since 1997, the UK has had 9 fiscal rules. Since 2000, Brazil has had 4 fiscal rules. And the EU have had they suspended their deficit and debt targets in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. So these fiscal rules are just a political football that politicians use for whatever reason. Yeah.
So would this not, however, just ensure that we don't overspend? Because one of the key things that have also happened, and I'm playing devil's advocate here, is that we've spent so much as a country that we've seen so much wastage, so much wreckage that it's fallen by the wayside in some instances. Maybe if we have greater fiscal discipline, maybe we start caring about every penny and every cent a little bit more before we then loosen the reins a little bit more. Or would that just be counterintuitive because we need the spending?
Okay, so now let me explain. From 2014 to 2024, we had a public sector investment strike. Real per person public investment collapsed by 40%. So a rising debt ratio is a symptom of a broken economy because of the government's misguided austerity policies. Now, let me just talk about the budget, the kindergarten economics that you see at National Treasury. So our debt is 6.1 trillion. In the budget on Wednesday, they'll announce a primary budget surplus of about 200 billion rands a year for the next 3 years. Yep. But in the same budget, they will announce that a borrowing requirement for the next 3 years of 1.6 trillion. Make that make sense. How is this primary budget surplus going to do anything to address the crisis? And Rabida, let me give you an analogy. We hate analogies with a household budget. Imagine the Gqubule family has a 1 million rand debt, and you have a family meeting that says, family, I want you to we will save 25,000 rand a year to pay off this debt, but we will also borrow 80,000 rand a year to increase the debt. It makes no sense whatsoever. So it is absolutely absurd, and they're going into an election year. It makes no sense whatsoever. Yeah.
So the question mark other people might say is, should we be worried so much about debt? Because
no, we have a GDP growth problem. Our GDP growth is chronically low.
Yeah.
The average since 2009 for emerging and developing countries is 4.4%. 155 emerging and developing countries grew by 4.4% they cruised to that growth without any effort. Emerging and developing Asia, 30 countries grew by 6.3%. So we should be asking, why is South Africa alone got this chronically low GDP growth for so long? And why do we have the second highest unemployment rate in the world? The last time I looked, we had the world unemployment rate was 4.9% last year. I mean, and more than 80 countries have achieved full employment, which I describe as an unemployment rate of less than 5%. So no, we must call out the government for their economic policy incompetence. Yeah.
Is it just the incompetence at play? Because is it incompetence? Is it corruption? Is it a lack of planning in some instances? Is it not being able to actually complete the tasks that you then plan for? Because we've planned galore. We've planned to the hills, really, when it comes to our economy.
Yeah, it's all of those things together, but we have to call out the government for whatever it is. Is it incompetence? Some people say, Duma, it's not incompetence, it's deliberate, because they want to collapse the government, collapse the ANC, and hand everything to the private sector. But I don't want to go that far. I'm not one for conspiracy theories. I can't believe that anyone would deliberately collapse this economy. Why would they do that, if they want to win an election? It makes no sense whatsoever. Yeah.
So are we... And this might put you on the spot here a little bit, Duma, but allow me to do so. Do we have the wrong people in charge, in your view?
No, we have the wrong people in charge, yes. I mean, yeah, definitely we have the wrong people in charge. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. How can you have such chronically low GDP growth for so long and soaring unemployment, and the government just gaslighting the people, saying the economy is turning, debt is stabilizing? I looked at the debt before talking to you. It was 4 trillion in 2022. Now it is 6.1 trillion. But they're going to stand up and say the debt is stabilizing. Make that make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
They said it's stabilized, but since 2022, it's doubled from 4 to 6. And then according to their plans, over the next 3 years, it's going to increase by another trillion. So no.
I can tell you disgruntlement. Okay, take all of that into account and give me your expectations, your view on what we could be hearing then from Newzroom Afrika on Wednesday. We're past the times of the aloe trees and stuff from the late former Finance Minister Tito Mboweni.
So all political parties must reject this budget, as we saw last year. So what they're going to announce a fiscal responsibility law to legislate austerity. They might announce an independent fiscal council, because Treasury now accepts what we've been saying.
Wait, Duma, can I actually interrupt you? Sorry, I just want to dumb it down just a little bit, if I may. So that fiscal law will mean that we're limiting how much we're spending or how much we're borrowing?
Well, there's different ways of doing it. You could have a debt ceiling. I don't think that they will do that like the US. You could have a debt to GDP target or ceiling, whatever, like the EU, or you could have a deficit target. I don't think they'll do that. I think what they'll do, they'll announce a primary budget surplus target. That is the budget deficit excluding interest payments. Yes. So that is the money that they'll put in the kitty, in the kids' the money box to pay the debt. It's like spare change that they're going to use to pay the debt. It's all performative. It's going to do nothing to change the debt. So I believe that's what they're going to do. They're going to announce a primary budget surplus target. They're going to announce a fiscal council. And because they've now admitted that their forecasts are not credible, they're over-optimistic. So they might announce an independent fiscal council. They might announce plans to go to parliament and have a 5-year fiscal plan. Why are they setting up all these elaborate institutions to address? We don't have a debt problem, we have a GDP growth problem. Why don't they set up similar structures to address the chronically low GDP growth, because if the economy grows, the debt takes care of itself and we create jobs. You know, that is what we should be focusing, not this insane IMF snake oil of structural reforms.
Yeah, and these reforms, though, are something that we look at because we feel, well, we need to appease the economic and global investor community in order to look good. And whatever the IMF says, whatever the credit ratings agencies say, we need to go along with. Is South Africa too reliant on what comes out of international investors?
Yes, because this doesn't benefit the majority of South African businesses. It benefits bond markets. And it benefits the financial sector in South Africa, you know, that invest in these bond markets. And everybody else doesn't benefit. You know, finance, you know, when I look at, you know, I'm obsessed with jobs. When you look at the finance sector, it's the only sector that's created jobs over the private sector that's created jobs over the past 17 years. They grow whether the economy is in recession, whether the economy is in trouble, they grow, you know, and they have record profits. The market capitalization of Capitec is now about 500 billion rand, same with First Rand. So nobody outside of the financial sector benefits from this collapsing economy. And I just think that all South Africans, including businesses, 99% of businesses do not benefit from this, except those 5 banks and 2 insurance companies. Nobody else benefits from this here.
Very, very interesting. Duma, thank you so much for your thoughts on this one, and I think an important one. Wednesday afternoon is when the Finance Minister, Newzroom Afrika will be delivering that budget speech for 2026. A year ago, ended up seeing 2 delays to that speech. Unlikely to see the same as what we're anticipating, but still an important one nonetheless. Independent economist Duma Gqubule there.